Major developments in the wake of President Trump's former attorney Michael Cohen's plea deal. Federal prosecutors in New York granting immunity to National Enquirer publisher David Pecker in exchange for information about Cohen's hush money payments. This comes as the president is blasting Cohen for cutting a deal with prosecutors.
This whole thing about flipping, they call it. I know all about flipping. For 30, 40 years, I've been watching flippers. Everything's wonderful, and then they get 10 years in jail, and they flip on whoever the next highest one is, or as high as you can go. It almost ought to be outlawed. It's not fair. If somebody defrauded a bank, and he's going to get 10 years in jail or 20 years in jail, but if you can say something bad about Donald Trump, and you'll go down to 2 years or 3 years, which is the deal he made.
The president also taking aim again at Attorney General Jeff Sessions, who recused himself from the Mueller probe.
The Dems are very strong in the Justice Department. I put an Attorney General that never took control of the Justice Department, Jeff Sessions. Never took control of the Justice Department, and it's a sort of an incredible thing.
Sessions deciding to fire back at Trump's latest slam, vowing the Justice Department won't be improperly influenced by politics. Meanwhile, Senator Lindsey Graham causing a stir in the nation's capital by predicting the end may be near for the embattled AG.
I think there will come a time, sooner rather than later, where it will be time to have a new face and a fresh voice at the Department of Justice. After the election, I think there will be some serious discussions about a new Attorney General. Replacing him before the election, to me, would be a non-starter. But the idea of having a new Attorney General in the first term of President Trump's administration, I think is very likely.
That's how you set the cat amongst the pigeons. Jesse, what do you think of all this?
Well, listen, a lot of people are unhappy with Jeff Sessions' performance. He has not done what he was supposed to do with regards to leaks. I think Reality Winner is the only person he really prosecuted, and there's been a lot of misconduct at the FBI and the Department of Justice that I don't believe he wants to get in the middle of, because he doesn't want to get caught in some sort of obstruction probe himself. He never should have recused. He bowed to the pressure of the swamp. He made a mistake by forgetting some random meeting for 30 seconds with a Russian ambassador, and then all of a sudden he caved. So I understand Trump's concern there. With the Michael Cohen thing, I don't really believe the president wants to criminalize flipping. It's just his way of saying he doesn't like it. And I understand what happened. I mean, Cohen was looking at almost 20 years in prison, and his wife was in the crosshairs, too, because the wife also signed off on their tax returns. And he's a good father. He's a family man, so he doesn't want to spend 20 years in jail if he can spend 3 by doing what the prosecutors want and saying that, yes, Mr. Trump did this because he wanted to help himself with the election. I'll sign anything. And that's how prosecutors advance in their careers. Prosecutors don't sit around and not prosecute people. They prosecute famous people, and that's how they move up, and they want a scalp here. And this is just one step on the way to potentially Donald Trump. Now, there is nothing wrong with paying a woman to not say something which could be personally damaging to you or to your family. If he pays this money out of his personal piggy bank so she keeps quiet, that is not a legitimate campaign expenditure. And John Edwards faced the exact same thing. Prosecutors went after him because some rich folks gave him $700,000 to cover up his affair and protect his wife. It went to the jury, and the jury said, you know what, this had nothing to do with a political campaign. This had everything to do with trying to save his reputation and his marriage. So the law is actually on Donald Trump's side on this. I don't see this going anywhere except politically damaging the president. He's wasting a ton of political capital dealing with these massive amounts of investigations and the criminalization of politics. And it really is starting to take a toll on him. And it's disappointing and it's sad.
We'll go to a prosecutor for response.
Thank you. And I've never prosecuted a famous person who I've had to flip someone on. All of mine are murderers. So prosecutors, it's a common tool. The most recent one I can remember was a getaway driver in a murder case. You know, you take the least culpable person and you flip them because you want to know what's going on at the time of the crime. Having said that, you've got to have corroborating evidence, plenty of it. And the jury, the difference here is a jury gets to hear, hey, you gave this guy a deal. Hey, this guy got this deal and he's not going to prison at all. And so they get to hear everything about it. And you flipped him and he was part of the murder, but he didn't actually commit the murder. In the other case with the president, all it's going to be is in a potential memo for impeachment. So where's the credibility of somebody getting to cross-examine him? It's not. And they're taking what Michael Cohen says as fact. If in fact they do an impeachment memo, they're putting it in there. Oh, he said this, therefore it must be true. And once it's out in the media, it's out there. And sure, down the road, Congress will get a chance to jump in on it and weigh in. But by then, it's already taken as fact. So that's what troubles me with how they're doing this.
Juan, you want to weigh in here?
I'd love to. So, first and foremost, there is no deal. Cohen spoke in open court, and said what he said. He has no deal with Mueller. He has no deal with the Southern District of New York's federal prosecutors. He made a plea deal because he understood and said he was guilty of having committed these crimes, and then named the president as someone who had directed him to make these payments. And what we've learned today in terms of what American media, the National Enquirer, has done, that he was involved in an effort to cover up these things, Jesse, in advance of the campaign, that these payments were made in cooperation with a media company to protect the president. They had some interesting language in there. They said this was basically a tripwire, so that they would learn of anybody who was coming to potentially embarrass the president, and they would stop it by, what do they call it, catch and kill, pay and kill, or something like that. Catch and kill these stories. Now, this is, to me, to hear the president talking about Cohen in this manner and suggest, of course, Manafort's okay, but Cohen is a rat. It sounds to me like we're talking about a mob boss in The Godfather or something. It's unbelievable.
Greg, do you want to talk about this, or would you like to hear one more piece of sound from the president about impeachment?
I'd like to talk about anything you want me to talk about, including that tape.
Okay, let's listen to that, and you can comment on any of it and all of it. This is the president talking about what might happen if they try to impeach him.
Well, I guess it says something like high crimes and all. I don't know how you can impeach somebody who's done a great job. I'll tell you what, if I ever got impeached, I think the market would crash. I think everybody would be very poor, because without this thinking, you would see numbers that you wouldn't believe in reverse. Numbers in reverse.
Well, you know what? He might not be wrong about the economy, because impeachment is not going to be helpful. But it also could get better, because then you end up with Pence. And this is what I think the right is missing. They have to be drilling it into the left's heads that, okay, we'll take Pence. Because, by the way, you won't lose. You'll get two presidents. You'll have President Pence, and you'll also have Trump as a national folk hero. You think Trump's going to go away if he's impeached? Hell no. He's going to be right there every day. He's going to be on TV every day. You're going to have him, and he's going to be bigger than Pence. It'll be hilarious, actually. Now, about the David Pecker stuff. Okay, so it's all about suppressing tales of romps with a Playboy model and so on. I haven't seen a trail of victims here. I see nothing but consensual adults who got paid, okay? You can kill stories. I don't think that's against the law. And I'm like 323 million people out there. I am not a lawyer. So a lot of this stuff goes right over my head. But I'll tell you this. I listened to Al Dershowitz, and he, if you watched him on Brett Baer's special report last night, clearest analysis. If Trump told Cohen to make a contribution, that's legal. He's allowed. If Cohen did it himself, that's a crime by Cohen. Right. Therefore, Trump's fine. Trump is not an unindicted co-conspirator, because if you're lawful and the other person isn't, that's not a crime. At worst, the failure to report the contribution, I'm doing an Al Dershowitz Cliff's Notes, is a misdemeanor at most. It's not a high crime. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I think that I'm so glad that Dershowitz can explain what the media cannot explain. The media immediately jumps and says, "Oh, there's a broken law." As for Sessions, all this palace intrigue is tedious and boring, and it only serves to tell the American public that we are living in good times. If this is what we're talking about, we have a great economy. We have bigger paychecks. We have low unemployment. We have what seems to be like temporary peace. So we're talking about this palace intrigue, and the media is so frustrated.
But the president tweets about Jeff Sessions threatening to fire him. I mean, it's not just people.
Well, that's palace. I call
it's not leaks. I mean, it's the president actually said it.
Well, that's part of the Trump package. He's not just your president. He's your uncle. He's your cab driver. He's your bartender. You ask him anything, he's got an opinion. I've said it before. He's like a 6-hour drive to an hour at the beach.
Well,
and that's why people love him. And that's why people love him. And he has a target on his head from Mueller. And anybody who gets in the way is collateral damage, hence the immunity, hence all these plea deals. They're going to do anything they can to get to the president of the United States.
Wait a second. What about the truth? What about having the American people understand what took place? He goes after Sessions today. What kind of man is this? Well, Jesse, his intent is that the Justice Department serve his needs, not serve the American people. Yep. To me, this is corruption.
I'm Greg, by the way. That's
Mr. Holder was not the most independent person at the Justice Department.
Here we go.
There is a very big double standard here because President Obama accepted $2 million in illegal campaign contributions.
Get out. It's not
and
even
had to pay
similar.
a nearly $400,000 fine. That was not treated as a felony.
Jesse,
that was treated as an administrative violation.
Jesse, this is a matter of
the dossier that was paid for by Hillary Clinton
let somebody else
and laundered through.
Because you just
let me finish. And laundered through a law firm. And laundered through a law firm. Where was that reported? And how is that not a legal campaign contribution by a corporation?
You know the quote of the day?
There's a big double standard, and you don't want to admit it.
Let me tell you the quote of the day. I have lots of friends involved in this flipping thing. You know who said that? Donald Trump, as if he was a mob boss.